All right, good evening. Welcome to the Monday, June 2nd, Cabarrus County Board of Education work session. I'm going to start by introducing the folks here on the dais. So we've got our teacher representative, Caleb Snell. Thanks for being here. We have board member Shannon Lancaster, board member Catherine Moore, board member Sam Treadaway, our superintendent, Dr. Kapicki, myself, board chair Rob Walter, our vice chair Greg Mills. We have board member Pam Escobar, board member Melanie Freeman. We have our attorney William Eisenhower with us, and our board clerk Lori Furr. So those are the introductions. So we will start on 2.0, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we've got several items on the agenda tonight. So first item of business is to adopt that agenda. So board members, you've seen it on board docs. I would need a motion and a second to approve our agenda tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Treadaway. Do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Freeman. Any further discussion? With that, let's vote. All in favor of our agenda tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, our agenda has been set. And we will move right on into item section 4, which is board chair comments. And I'd just like to take a moment to recognize and sincerely thank everybody that has played a role in making our recent graduation ceremony such a success. I mean, last month we proudly hosted 12 graduation ceremonies. More than 2,600 graduates as they crossed the stage to complete their high school journey. Over 80 of those students met the graduation requirements in just 3 years. And even over 100 of them had an associate's degree in addition to their high school diploma when they walked across that stage. So there was a lot to celebrate. Those ceremonies are no small feat. They require essentially an all-hands-on-deck effort to ensure a safe, smooth, and memorable experience for our graduates and families. Every school staff member and administrator showed up in support for our graduates. My hats go off to the individuals that were assigned to reading all those names. It's not an easy task. Cabinet level folks and Ed Center people, they were all there coordinating the event to make it look like clockwork. Even our superintendent tailored his speeches to the individual schools, so that was a nice touch. Especially we want to be grateful for our SROs and our first responders who were present to ensure our safety throughout the event. We had our communications team out. They did a tremendous job maintaining the graduation website, maintaining the live streams, capturing, there must have been thousands of pictures. Many of those are now on our social media pages. So I also want to extend our appreciation to the arena staff and their volunteers who managed the logistics and parking, ensured the facility remained welcoming and comfortable throughout the ceremonies. And to our choruses, our bands, and our ROTC students, your contributions elevated the ceremonies and added a sense of pride and tradition. We really thank you for sharing your talents with the graduates and the guests. And then lastly, our special thanks to our fellow board members for attending and representing the board on all these graduations. There were some pretty long days, but it was an absolute honor, and to personally congratulate each of those graduates as they crossed the stage was a real treat. So those are my comments. So with that, I will move to 4.02, superintendent comments. Dr. Kapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. I'd like to echo Mr. Walter's comments and also say thank you to our school staff, our Board of Education, our district staff, and the Cabarrus Arena and Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office for all of the work that you did last week in making sure that our graduation was a memorable event for all families and all students that were there in attendance. So I thank them for that. We were very happy to welcome more than 23,000 family members, friends, and supporters to our graduation ceremonies at Cabarrus Arena. And another 25,000 viewers from 14 countries joined us live on YouTube or watched on demand. Talks a little bit about an example of showing you how much we're growing and how the diversity in the district that is taking place, which is wonderful. Your cheers and the belief that you have in our students created an incredible atmosphere, and we're appreciative of that. And we just want to continue to remind everyone that our families are the heart of our schools. Your encouragement, your partnership, and your presence from the very first day of kindergarten to the final walk across the stage for graduation makes all the difference. Graduation is not just a celebration of student achievement. It's a celebration of love, support, and commitment to the families that they pour all their heart and soul into every step of the way to make sure that our students together have a great future when they leave here. And for us, it's wonderful to see it all come to life at graduation. Our communications team has worked hard to process more than 3,000 photos from this milestone, as Mr. Walters alluded to earlier, making sure that we share all those family moments with you. And we'd like to invite you to visit our website so you can download these pictures for graduation, the ceremony, for free. I'd like to commend Gordon Palmer for his leadership and making sure that everything went seamlessly at the arena. It's quite a task to take on the many high schools that we have coming and going and getting that organized, and his leadership was outstanding. I really appreciate the leadership that he demonstrated over there doing that. I'd like to thank Phil Furr for helping with the speeches. I get a lot of credit, but I have a great man behind me that helps me a great deal with writing things and making sure that I cross the T's and dot the I's and things sound great. So I'd like to thank Phil for his help on some of that work as well. His research was impeccable. Again, it's the moment we celebrate. I can tell you this too. The early indications of some of the results that we've seen from some of our end of course test results are very encouraging. We're going to be excited to share those with you at the end of the summer when we get the final results back. But it's a compliment to our teachers. Our teachers have done a fantastic job, and we're very encouraged by the results we've seen. And don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but they look good, and we're excited to share those with our public in the future. Reminding everyone that we are in the summer schedule, but there's free summer meals. Our school nutrition program is proud to once again offer free healthy summer meals to all of our children 18 and younger through the North Carolina Summer Meals Program. There's no registration required, and the meals will be delivered Monday through Thursday by bus through July 31st. Please remember your child must be present to receive the meal, and you can find more information on the full delivery schedule on our website. Our athletic registration is now open. If your student is planning to participate in the middle or high school sports this summer or fall, please make sure they've registered through Dragonfly and have a current physical on file. Summer workouts began this week, so now's the time to get signed up. You can visit your school's athletic website for more details, contact your school's athletic director, or feel free to call Brian Tyson, the district athletic director at the Education Center, for any help or assistance you may need. The summer programs and resources, we have a wide variety of opportunities available this summer, from STEM camps to Spark North Carolina Tech experiences, music camps, and Safety Town for rising kindergartners. There's something for every student, and we again encourage you to visit our website. And lastly, on June 23rd of obviously this month, June 23rd at 6 p.m., we are going to hold a community meeting at Concord Middle School to discuss our plan moving forward with Concord Middle School. We will very soon name a principal for that school, and then we're going to work and engage our community to come up with a long-term plan to make sure that we can build a successful experience for our kids at Concord Middle School. So that will take place on June 23rd of 2025 at 6 p.m. at Concord Middle School. We welcome all of the Concord Middle School community to come to that meeting and engage with us as we present some of our plans for the Concord Middle School into the future. Thank you, Mr. Walter.
Thank you, Dr. Pickey. Before I move on, I want to make sure we recognize our SROs that are here in the building tonight. We have Deputy Dial from Royal Oaks School of the Arts, and we have Deputy Dutch, from Hickory Ridge Middle School. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. So we will move on to section 5, which is the report section. 5.01 is committee reports by board members. And do we have any committee members that want to give an update on any of the committees that have been part of this past month? Catherine?
I attended the last meeting of the Student Health Advisory Council last month, and they are still working on analyzing our local wellness policy to see if there's any needs for revisions. They're also very, very excited about being part of or participating in the Health Safe workplace, which will increase knowledge and training of our staff with hands-only CPR and using defibrillators. This, of course, they can do while waiting on paramedics, and it could save a life. You know, after being part of the safety committee and the health advisory council, I feel good about our staff and outside agencies working to keep our students and our staff safe and healthy. So I do appreciate all the work they do. And I look forward to serving back on these two committees next year.
Thank you, Catherine. Anybody have questions for Catherine? Anybody else on updates? We did have our finance committee meeting last week, so big thanks to Mr. Penn for all the data and information he came and he shared with us. We covered a number of items from our deficit, which we'll get an update here momentarily. I went through the lunch balances on how those have decreased and plans and discussions. I think they'll be coming to us this summer with an update for us on the situation and trying to see if we can come up with ideas to where we don't run up in the same situation every year. County manager's budget proposal was shared with us and how that relates to what our ask was. He also gave us a comparison with the North Carolina House budget proposals and the North Carolina Senate budget proposals and how that would impact Cabarrus County schools. We also got an update on our department structure in the finance area and how we compare to other districts our size and surrounding. And then they talked about the reasons for the continuing budget resolution, which we'll see tonight as well. Does that cover it all, Sam?
Yes.
All right, so Shannon.
I just wanted to give an update for the Cabarrus Educational Foundation. Their final total for the number of books they gave out was almost 22,000 books this past year.
Holy cow.
And they worked with 9 elementary schools. So let's just give them a shout out for doing that great job, and that they are working to get ready for next year.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I really need to congratulate all the efforts that went into doing that. All right, we covered our committee reports for the month. We'll move on to 5.02 and welcome Mr. Brian Cohn back. Haven't seen you in a little while, so welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Kopicki. This is your construction update for the months of basically April and May of things that have taken place. We'll start with Coultram Webb. Again, we're in the cusp of a lot of grading operations taking place on all these sites. A lot of dirt being moved on all of them. You'll see in some of these images that will update you. We have completed the new sanitary sewer lines. The public lines have been activated, so we've abandoned all the old lines that ran through the middle of the property. The underground detention system that is to be installed above the multi-purpose field and playground space has been installed and is being backfilled against now. The B-wing portion of the classroom section has been proof-rolled and is beginning to have foundation work taking place. A group called Axiom Foundation, they're doing aggregate piers, so it's a little bit different foundation than we're used to seeing because of the soil conditions we had. We had decisions to make very early on in the design. Do we undercut a substantial amount of dirt on this site, export it, and bring dirt in, or do we go through this unique foundation system that is used readily in our industry? And so they are drilling close to 280 holes on site that will be the supporting structures for the building itself. Storm pipe work continues around, bypassing the networks that go around our buildings. Additional private utilities, those are our utilities, are beginning to be installed now that the public utilities have been completed and have been brought online. And we're going to be meeting with school staff this week about playground layouts and how that looks, because we let the principals and the assistant principals have a say in how those structures are designed. There are just a couple of images there for you. That's the drill rig that's taking care of all the aggregate piers that are being drilled. That's an updated aerial view showing the underground detention there in the foreground up off of Grove Avenue. Again, that is the main area where our multi-purpose field, our emergency access for fire access coming off of Grove, as well as our playground structures. And then that predominant area is where the classroom wings will be. Just a quick update on some data points from our last monthly update that we received from Rogers. You can see we're a little bit over a quarter of the way complete on the project itself in terms of the elapsed time. Update on our diversity spend, you've actually got about a little over $17,000. Not a lot of subs on site right now because it's mostly civil and site work that's taking place. That number will start growing substantially as we start coming out of the ground. Give you a quick update on our submittals. You can see what our estimated submittal log will be. About 250 submittals is what we'll receive on this job. It just gives you some data on how many are closed, how many are still under review, what the average review time is. And then one that we highlight is the first submission approval rate of 89%. That kind of speaks to the process that we go through with the design team and the contractor early on, making sure that we align exactly what our needs are with the scope of work with all these individual trades. Our material tracking, you see there's structural steel, rebar, chillers, boilers. Those are all milestones within the project. That's why we track those. Those are dates that we need to hit, and we're behind now because of the weather on structural steel and rebar. In the month of May, we've received about 9 inches of rain on that site. So it's really hindered us on making progress on where we needed to be to date. Then a quick update on the billing. You can see it gives us the current contract value, what's been billed to date. Also, that tracks our sales tax summary that we look at on a monthly basis. That's just an updated aerial view showing you the main entrance at the bottom there off of Grove Avenue, which will be where parents and visitors and staff will enter. Up at the top of the image is the bus entrance and school nutrition, which is off of Franklin Avenue. You have Spring Street on your right, and you have Georgia Street on your left. And one more updated aerial from looking over Spring Street. That's Georgia Street up in the foreground up there. Franklin's on your right. Grove is on your left. And then this just gives you kind of a perspective of what the site will look like. And then those are our current rendered models that we use throughout the project just to relay information to the stakeholders. That's all I had on Coach and Web. Are there any questions?
Questions, board members?
Yes, sir.
Greg?
Just preliminarily, due to tariffs or any other things, are we seeing any changes in costs?
We have not been impacted. We've really pushed some of those submittals through quickly because they've not so much said that we would be impacted, but they were concerned that there could be. So we have expedited the review of the submittals that we felt like were going to be critical. And we continue to work through that. It's not to say that in 2 months when we're still going through this, something doesn't pop up. But I think we're in a good position now, getting ahead of the game on some of the ones that were probably the most concerning to us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that the steel's behind. Is that going to delay the project?
Steel's just behind on schedule. I mean, the steel's paid for, or it's been procured, just hasn't been delivered to the site because we're not quite ready for it because of the rain delays.
That's not going to delay the overall project, or
No,
what?
sir. No.
And then the other question, I guess, how's the tree that we're trying to save? That condition, that's doing all right?
Tree's still living.
Still tree doing okay.
We were looking at it today, so.
All right. Thank you.
So we'll move over to the Mary Frances Wall project. So name of the game at this site has been rock crushing. We've been doing that for a little over, well, when I put this together, 4 weeks, but now we're on to 5 weeks. We've been crushing rock and moving it from this site over to the Coultram website. So it has benefited everybody that's been a part of it. There has been roughing work and for electrical and plumbing continuing on the 95 wing that will be reconditioned for this project. And again, when I put this together, we're about 90% complete on the footings and foundations being poured in place, but right now we're 100% poured out. So that's we're moving in the right direction here. Underground electrical work is getting started for pathways that go under the slab. We're going to be scheduling our special inspections meeting with the County Building Inspection Department and the project team that's required for these projects. That's kind of going through the special inspections that are required from the county so that if the inspectors aren't there, they know that we have third-party inspectors on site that are looking over this stuff and what the process is for that. And then the civil contractor is going to begin in his stormwater piping here in the next week or so on this site as well once the rock work takes place or gets completed, sorry. And that has been our saving grace right there. Again, for about 5 weeks straight, they've been crushing rock on this site.
Are we getting complaints from the neighbors on the noise? Or?
Nope, it's not actually with the trees and surrounding vegetation that buffers us. It's not, you don't hear it at all. So that's the main parking lot area there. That's the Hillgrove Water Plant on the top of that image, and that's where all the rock has been encountered. There's one of the previous aerial images showing the footings and foundation being excavated. There they are pouring what we call mud mats in the bottom of those footings. So when they excavate these footings out, they pour a layer of concrete in the very bottom so that if it does rain, we're not able to, or we're not impacted by muddy dirt on the bottom of that footing. And then here's an updated image from last week. 3 or 4 inches of rain helps to highlight your footings and foundation. You can see there. So, and then again, just the current rendered model that we're using to make sure and communicate with stakeholders if there are any questions on what this building will look like. And that's all I have on Mary Frances Wall. Are there any questions?
Questions, board members? We're good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Last one, update you on is Opportunity School. Again, good bit of dirt being moved on this site. The building pad's been completed ahead of underground plumbing work that'll get started. They're beginning to work on the electrical pathway for fiber between the Performance Learning Center and the Opportunity School. We worked with technology on what was the best method to connect the technology to this building, and what we have arrived at is we'll connect them between those 2 buildings. Installation of stormwater pipe is ongoing around the perimeter of this site as well. We did encounter some additional unsuitable soil in the main parking lot area that's having to be undercut right now. We continue to mine suitable fill material though on site, which is a benefit to the district because we don't have to import that material from off site. So we have enough land that we're able to mine that suitable fill on site. We did hold our special inspections meeting with Cabarrus County at this site a couple of weeks ago. We're also, the contractor is going to be relocating the dumpster area there on the bottom right of that image. That's a part of this project. That's the PLC dumpster that will be shared with the Opportunity School, but does need to be relocated during the summer months so that it's ready when school starts back in the fall. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should see footings and foundation work beginning on this side as well. And we have projected June, July 2026 completion date. And that's just looking at the main area of the building pad there. That is our borrow pit area in the back. So we're mining good dirt from there, and we're taking the unsuitable dirt and filling those holes in. And this is an area of the site that we did not need for any part of the program of the school. And that's looking at the Performance Learning Center, and you can see there where the darker colored dirt is. That's bad dirt. We don't like that, but you can see where they're having to pull that out from that main parking area. This is just our updated BIM model showing the proposed furniture layout and casework layout that we sit down with the staff and start reviewing, making sure that we're aligning with what they feel like their needs are. And that's all I had. Are there any questions?
All good? Good.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much for the update. So we will move on to report 5.03, which is the 2024-25 CTE year in review. And do we have, there she is, Miss Melanie Ritter. Welcome to the podium.
Talk to you a little bit about CTE and update you on our comprehensive local needs assessment. It is a 2-year plan, so this is our midpoint. Thank you, sorry. This is our midpoint to share with you some updates for kind of our 24-25, where we've been and where we're going for next school year. My name is Melanie Ritter, and I'm the CTE director here in Cabarrus County Schools. And just really quickly, some of the sections of our CLNA: evaluation of performance, labor market alignment, size, scope, and quality, career pathway implementation, evaluation of progress, improve recruitment, retention, and training with our staff, and then equal access to high quality CTE programs here in Cabarrus County for all of our students. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through this, and if you have questions throughout, please ask. I think I skipped one. Some of the major focuses of our 2-year plan live with our graduation rate for our CT concentrators, academic proficiency with reading and language arts, which is our 2S1 indicator, academic proficiency in Math 1. It also encompasses Math 3 for students who have taken Math 1 in middle school, non-traditional program enrollment, which I'll talk a little bit about, and then some of our data reporting specific to our students that take CTE courses. They do take a proof of learning aligned to the CTE course, and then a crosswalk for ELA and math. So with evaluation of performance this year, we worked really hard to align our CTE professional learning with district goals, very much focused on 8th grade math, Math 1, and Math 3. We hosted a professional development day for our CTE teachers where they could look at what they teach in their CTE classes and how it aligns to the math standards, the NC math standards. It's really important that we look at our CTE classes as cross-departmental, cross-curricular. We also looked at ELA, specifically English 2. That's one of our indicators for our data, and we will continue that as we move forward into the 25-26 school year. We hired a special populations coordinator, which has been a great addition to our CTE team. She's very focused on making sure that all students are afforded the opportunity to be successful within our CTE programs. We reviewed special populations data to determine next steps for marketing our CTE programs, and we provided additional support opportunities to our teachers. We hosted an online professional learning opportunity for our teachers focused on multilingual learners. And we also provided additional licensure support for our new teachers, and we partnered with different vendors for specific program area training. So as some of you know, CTE is very specific in content, and if we found that there was a teacher who had a need for training, we made sure that we met that need for them. We're also very fortunate to have NCDPI provide training to our teachers, very specific to what they're teaching in the classroom. For 25-26, we are working to launch a CTE expectations document by job role to kind of clarify leadership roles in our buildings as well as expectations for our teachers within our CTE programs. We are continuing to train the CTE leadership team related to data dives. I think we need to focus more on where we are and how do we grow our students within our CTE department. With the proof of learning, it's different for every class. So just depending on what the proof of learning is, that would be related to what the data looks like and how do we grow. Provide data sets related to the proof of learning. And one thing I wanted to share, well, I guess I'll share in a minute, sorry. Provide data sets related to proofs of learning, very specific to teachers to help them work together in their professional learning communities to get better at what they do every day. That's a very big focus for us, teacher coaching and support within our CTE teams. Market our CTE programs to non-traditional students, highlight CTE celebrations, reimagine our social media within CTE, if you will, work on internal communications with stakeholders within the school system, and then a new media in partnership with ICEV and Rhodes Branding. So we partnered with Rhodes Branding this year and ICEV, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but continue that partnership to help us market our programs to the community in Cabarrus County. And a weekly newsletter for CTE leaders. I actually, this is 25-26, but I've already started that to try to align our communication from the district level to our leadership within the buildings to our teachers. Are there questions about evaluation of performance before I continue?
Looks like we got some questions, so
Okay.
Pam.
Is my assumption correct in thinking that many of our CTE instructors are not professional teachers, that they had another profession and now they're coming and teaching that those skills to students, and so for them this is sort of new too, that's why the professional development is so important?
Great question. So we have a good mix of teachers. Some have gone the traditional teaching path and learned the content and went right into teaching. And we do have some who were in industry and have come into Cabarrus County Schools with the experience from the industry and come in to teach, yes. So professional learning is very important, not only just content driven, but also how do we teach in the classroom? What does a CTE classroom look like? What does a hands-on experience look like for our students? It's very important. Great question, thank you.
Did you have some
Additional
great-
questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oops. Shannon.
I had some question about the roads branding. Who are they and what are they gonna do? Are they local or where are they out of?
Yeah, so we worked with Roads Branding this year. They are out of South Carolina, and it's a marketing company that actually it's a partnership with NCDPI. And we worked closely with them to market our CTE programs. We were very specific this year with our career academies. And it's a little bit later in the presentation, but we were able to work with them and film within our schools. So any of our media that goes on our website is our Cabarrus County School students. It's not a stock photo or a stock video. Those are our students in the classroom working within our spaces with our technology, with our instructors. So they've been a great partner to be able to kind of highlight what we do in CTE. So next steps for the 25-26 school year is to kind of continue to grow that partnership and extend with not only videos but the print media. What does that look like? How do we reach families in the community so they understand opportunities for students here? Thank you. Good question. Anybody else?
Looks like. Continue, please.
Okay, thank you. So another major focus is the labor market alignment. CTE concentrator graduates are entering into post-secondary opportunities aligned to their high school concentration. So making sure that what students are taking in high school are what their post-secondary goals are. We're not just dropping them into a class to fill a schedule. Opportunities for special population students. Align CTE pathways to industry demand and projected growth within Cabarrus County. Market CTE pathways and post-secondary opportunities related to our 3 E's, which are enroll, enlist, and employ. So for 24-25, we promoted our CTE programs again through that marketing campaign. I think sometimes we're a hidden gem. We're in the schools, we do great things, but the community doesn't always hear about all the great things that are happening. Parents maybe don't even know that a program is available. So we're very much focused on making sure that not only parents but students are aware of what's available to them so they can advocate for their own education, but also in the community to build those community partnerships. Career development yearly calendar was something that we developed so that we could plan ahead different career opportunities for students, grades 6 through 12, and hopefully we can add 5th grade in there. CT Academy videos, as mentioned, we were very fortunate again to work with Roads Branding. They got a lot of footage with the ICEV video, and we were able to use some of that with our career academies. So we'll be able to, in this fall when we get ready to begin our program choice recruitment, we'll already have our videos ready and get started. And then we also are working to develop a CTE microsite. We started that this year, this spring. Basically, it's the website for CTE, but they call it a microsite. But basically, you'd click the link for CTE and it'll go to a website. But really kind of rebranding the CTE department and the marketing efforts, again, as a community campaign so that people understand in the community what we do here and how we can partner, what programs we offer. And so it's a good connection with the community. We're working right now on a draft review of that, and we will launch it live hopefully in July, and our teachers will have a full launch in August at our opening day session. For 25-26, one big focus is to align our business advisory board structure. The state requires us to have 2 meetings a year. I think sometimes that's considered a check the box item, but my vision is it's not a check the box item, that we are meeting regularly to make sure we're creating opportunities for students, not just a can we meet, this is what we're doing, and move on, but really looking at how do we place students in the community in internships, work-based learning opportunities, job shadow, and different things like that. So really looking to align our business advisory boards based on not only our career academies, but the other programs that we offer here in Cabarrus County. Onboarding of our new partners, so structuring the program where the onboarding of a new partner looks exactly the same every time we onboard somebody. That's been something we definitely have room to grow with. Right now, we meet with them, we email them, and it might go back and forth, but the structure of the onboarding, just quick training, where do they find our resources, how do they connect with a specific school depending on what they're looking for with their company. Launch the community awareness campaigns that comes with our microsite, and then again in the fall with our Career Academy videos. And then our data tracking review program areas to determine next steps for media. So how hits to the website, how many clicks are there, who's clicking the website, obviously community partner form, different things like that to make sure we're making connections in our community. Review our program enrollment just to make sure that we are getting the return on investment. Are students truly interested in that particular program at the school, or do we need to kind of revision what it looks like? And then work with industry partners to increase our work-based learning opportunities for students. We've done a great job this year of providing different opportunities for students. We supported over 180 field trips this year for our students. Some of those were at industry partners, some might have been at a post-secondary institution, and other work-based learning opportunities, guest speakers and different things within the school, but we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. Any questions about labor market alignment?
Board members? Thank you. Keep going. Melanie, I'm sorry.
How long has the CTE program been here in Cabarrus County Schools?
That is a great question. I'm assuming several years. It used to be called VOCATS.
Okay. My question is about tracking how many of our students are getting employed and where they are today. I guess the return on investment is what what people want to see, that this is paying off.
Absolutely.
For that.
Yeah, so we are working to implement a work-based learning tracker, which basically tracks what they're concentrating in here in the county. We do have a data portal called the CCIP with North Carolina, and it tells how many concentrators within each pathway. And then the semester after graduation, we do what we call as concentrator feedback survey, and we call all of our CTE concentrators to see where are they now. But kind of to your point, it'd be nice to track them longer to see, did they go to NC State? What are they at NC State for? Did they go to their second year, for example? But right now it's the semester after they go, and we pull that data as well.
Well, and to see the improvement or the growth of the program would be nice. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Also in the CCIP, with our concentrators, we can see trend growth over years, and if anybody's interested in that, I can provide that. But it's I think 2020 is the last set, so from 2020 until now, how many concentrators did we have in each pathway, and how much have we grown? We use that as an indicator as well of not only student interest, but is the pathway is it viable here in Cabarrus County, or maybe we need to shift to pull students' interest, in a different direction.
Well, and I guess that's part two of my question, is the trends change.
Yeah.
So sometimes by the time you get them trained, the trend has now changed.
Yes.
So is there any data on that? I mean, things that are consistently used across the thing, then as opposed to a trendy type of thing.
Yeah, we do some work with the Portrait of a Graduate, which are durable skills. So we're training students now for jobs that will be available in the future. So a lot of skills-based items. We have talked with a lot of industry partners asking, what skills are missing when you employ students, or, either directly out of high school or when they're finished with college and you're employing, what types of skills are they lacking, and how can we provide support in order for students to have those skills when they leave high school? That's a great question. Thank you.
Dr. Kubicki, you wanted to add some?
Yeah. Melanie, just for a quick review, roughly how many kids are involved in our CTE program that take courses?
Our duplicated count is over 20,000. Unduplicated is around 13,100. Yeah.
And just want to highlight the fact that a large percentage of our students are involved in the CTE programs across the district.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Shannon.
Will you refresh my memory? Aren't a lot of the funds for CTE from federal dollars?
We do get federal dollars, and we also have state money dollars that we can use. But yeah, we are federally funded, and this update actually is part of our federal funding grant. So it's a 2-year cycle. Next year we'll start writing the next one. That will be, I'll be back next year and talk about kind of some updates and forward thinking. But yeah, 2-year cycle of writing.
Sam.
Any other questions?
That I was going to ask, with all the changes, is the Perkins Act money still seen as being secure?
As of right now, yes. I'm hoping that we continue that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've actually been very fortunate over the past few years. We had some career accelerator funds for camps that we were able to upgrade a lot of our labs in Cabarrus County. We've been able to purchase items maybe that the federal funds wouldn't purchase. And so we're, in my opinion, we're in a very good position as far as we've got simulators at West Cabarrus that are industry, aligned and things like that. Good question. Anybody else?
All right, well, we can
Okay.
continue. Unless you had something, or you good? Please continue.
Good. Okay. Size, scope, and quality. Really quickly. The major focuses for our 2-year plan was implementing the career development plan. That is state mandated, but it's one of my passions for sure. I think every student should have a plan when they graduate and walk across that stage. I think everybody in here could agree with me when it comes to that. Outlining an articulation process. Standard operating procedures for safety processes in all of our CTE labs, update any of our lab areas based on safety first, increase credentials offered, create a process for students to earn articulated credit with RCCC, and provide professional learning opportunities for CTE staff. So in 24-25, we started with family consumer science for our safety contracts, and that went really well. We already had an old version of that, if you will, so we kind of re-implemented as our trial year, and we're going to continue that primarily in the trades for next year. That's our focus, just making sure that all of our lab spaces are up to date and safe for students. Again, launched our career development planning. The district has been great in supporting that effort because it is a district effort, not just a CTE effort. So we made some really good progress this year, starting to get students into, we use Major Clarity here in Cabarrus County, and our schools, our admin teams, our teachers, our leadership really did a great job of exposing students to the portal so they could start learning more about themselves and what they're most interested in. We started to implement the beginning stages of a work-based learning tracker. I feel like CTE is so vast and we do so much all the time. It's really hard to tell the story because there's so much. So the work-based learning tracker really is to hone in on what we're doing at each school so that we can continue to fly our banner and tell our story. We had 3 professional learning days this year, and we continued our career awareness activities. We've been very fortunate to partner with the Chamber and Kannapolis City Schools to have C4 Day. I think several of you have been to that. It's one of the best days of the year, in my opinion. Students in 9-12, typically 11th and 12th graders, but 9 through 12 are able to come to the arena and meet community partners who may be hiring or just kind of talking to students about what their industry is and why it's so important that we fill that workforce. And then Futures Fair was in the fall where we promoted our CTE Career Academies. We have a Program Choice Roadshow. Our CTE teams did a great job of going to each middle school and basically highlighting our CTE Career Academies, helping students understand what are the options in Cabarrus County. It'll be a Saturday and I'm on the soccer field and a parent starts asking me and I'm like, oh, have you heard about the academy, over at West Cabarrus, and we just start talking, but sometimes not everybody knows what's out there for their students. So that's a great time to help 8th graders learn everything that we offer, and I'm going to be honest with you, if you have a 13-year-old come home and tell you all about this great program and they won't stop talking about it, they're probably going to try to get into the academy. So I'm really proud of our numbers with our academies as well. They've grown over the past 5 to 7 years since I've been here, so it's really great to see the students kind of matriculating through those programs and earning the different credentials and things. And then we did CareerCon. So we wrote the Cody Mobile App Grant this last year. I think that's the 4th year we've received it. And it's a 7th grade event. They go to the Cannonballer Stadium, Atrium, and they're able to do some career awareness activities, very much focused on computer science. We also bring in industry partners to do mock interviews. They get a tour of the stadium. They learn how computer science is part of baseball, which is kind of a unique connection that not all middle schoolers understand. So that's kind of our big 7th grade day. And then for 25-26, again, that safety lab checklist is huge for me. I really want to make sure our labs are up to date. As mentioned before, we've had some money in the past to do Career Accelerator money to update, but just making sure that we have the right tools and things in our labs. Lab contracts for family consumer science again, documentation for our enterprise programs. So within CTE, a lot of times we have what we call enterprise programs where they create a product or have a service and they, it costs money, for example. So the culinary group at Concord High School, the intention of that program is to be a full culinary service or a catering service so that the students learn the full spectrum of the business, not just cooking in the culinary kitchen, for example. So really looking at the enterprise programs and seeing how we can help students make the connection between what they're learning and what behind or past those four walls, what's that extension of learning into industry. Determine work-based learning tracker again, improve our process for articulated credit, and then outline our pre-apprenticeship process. The biggest one for me on this one is the pre-apprenticeship process. I have been in a lot of talks with Apprenticeship NC about who is currently a registered apprenticeship program here in Cabarrus County. How do we get our students into the pre-apprenticeship part of that so that as soon as they graduate, they can go directly into an apprenticeship program at a local business. That's a big one for me because we have a lot of students who they're not sure what to do when they graduate. They don't have a plan, and this would be a perfect segue into industry here in Cabarrus. Questions about that?
I know we got another 10 slides, so I'll let you go.
I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
Try to get through a few of those, and we'll get
we'll skip around. Career pathway implementation. So again, we partnered with ICEV to build the marketing campaign. Rhodes hosted a professional development day, kind of thinking about what is the vision of CTE and what does a CTE student look like so that we could figure out how do we market to these students and families. We supported a lot of field trips across the county. We also supported some post-secondary trips to different colleges around North Carolina. We continued our work-based learning support within guest speakers, field trips, district-wide events, and things like that. We're going to launch the community awareness campaign again. One big thing is to realign our pathway documents and make sure they're available to the community. If you look now, they're not currently on the website, so just building those so they are consistent so that our parents and families understand what we offer here. Create a standard of information to share with on our Career Academy websites, so no matter which website you go to, they look the same, they have the same information. And then train CTE leaders on best practices for marketing. We have a great leadership team in our building. I think one of the things that we are lacking is marketing, going to a company and making that ask. It's sometimes difficult to say, hey, are you willing to host 3 interns here, right? But just trying to build up our leadership team to be able to do that and feel comfortable with that. And then improve recruitment, retention, and training for our teachers. So again, we do a lot of professional learning in CTE. We always sponsor and allow our teachers to go to CTE Summer Conference, which is hosted in Winston-Salem. It's open to all of our teachers to go. They do the Department of Instruction does a great job of focusing in on what curriculum is new and how do we train the teachers. CTE team attended the job recruitment fair this year. I will say, and I don't want to jinx us, but I feel like we're in a pretty good position for 25-26 with staffing. I'm very happy about that. So hopefully we continue that. Teacher credentials have increased, so our teachers are starting to get the credentials that they're offering in the school, which just makes sense, right? And one thing I'm very proud about, we have students who have earned over 6,200 credentials just this year alone. And we're not done because they're not done entering all the data yet. So that's a preliminary number, but that is an increase from last year. So one of the things when I started as a CTE director, I told all of my leadership and every single teacher, my goal is to increase credentials because the students need this in order to, be marketable in the community. So that was a big one for me. We began some coaching, and then we implemented a CTE end of the year survey this year to make sure we know what the teachers need for professional learning so that we can service them. For 25-26, we're looking at the professional learning communities for our teachers to really connect one of the challenges that we offer so many credentials, one of the challenges is really even understanding how to give the credential, how do we prepare students, and how do we make sure that they are successful in the classroom. When I started in CTE, years ago, we couldn't offer the credential to students more than once. Now we're able to do that because we do get a separate budget for credential money. So we're able to offer credentials more than once for students, which I think is a great thing. Sometimes when you take a credential test, you're not sure what you're getting into, right? But the second time, they could be successful. Our CTSO advisor training, if you're not familiar, we do offer a lot of opportunities for students within our career technical student organizations. We actually have students, our DECA kids, we sent over 80 students to, where did they go this year? Orlando, Florida. Sorry, FBLA, like everybody's going somewhere else, but they went to Orlando and competed at a national level, which is amazing. We're getting ready to send FBLA to California. HOSA, which is health science, they're going to Nashville. So our students are going all over the United States to be on stage and represent our county in a really great light. And it's a great experience for students because some of these students would never get this opportunity. So I'm really excited about that, but we do definitely see a need for growth to train our advisors, not only to prep students, but just that paperwork side of it, and that, the paperwork is difficult sometimes. So continuing our leadership training and, of course, our coaching. I'll just keep rolling. You guys are sick of hearing me talk, I'm sure. 24-25, we supported our career development again. If you're not familiar, and this will be on our CTE website, but we do have a career continuum here in Cabarrus County, and it is for K-12 students. We really believe that exploration of careers needs to start at the kindergarten level, and it's important that students just get to learn different things. Most times, students are going to tell you they want to be a lawyer because maybe that's somebody in their family is a lawyer, but what they don't understand is there is a vast array of different careers that are out there, not just being an attorney, for example, or a doctor. So it's really important with that career development planning to support our students. Again, large focus on special population students, making sure that every student gets an opportunity to figure out what they want to do with their future. Career development coordinators provided to ensure all of our students are supported, and then we began reviewing some sample curriculum and guides for a CTE handbook so that we could streamline our processes just to support teachers and make it easier on teachers and leadership to understand there's so many different sides of CTE and different things that we do. For 25-26, again, it's pretty much just supporting that same thing. One of the things we're going to look at are enrollment trends and what programs we currently offer at all of our schools. And are students truly interested in that, and does it align with our industry here in Cabarrus County? The Special Populations Coordinator will continue to provide the support to students. If it's an economically disadvantaged student, we can help support some of the funds for them to go on different trips and things, but the Special Populations Coordinator can get into the school and co-teach with a teacher, provide additional support to a student who maybe isn't quite making the grade or just needs some extra help so that they are successful within our programs. And then create a full curriculum guide for families. Again, we offer so many pathways and so many different things here in Cabarrus County, which is great for students and great for families, but they don't always know that it's here. So I think, again, we're a hidden gem, and we want everybody to know about us and everything that we do. I'm not sure this is going to play. This is actually the Rhodes branding video that we did, and I can send the link. I don't know that it's going to actually play. Nope. But I'll send the link. It's online, but this video has our classrooms, all of our teachers and students, all of our technology is in it. And I'm sad it's not playing because it's actually an amazing video. I'm so proud of it. Nope. Somebody may be clicking it. Yeah. No. Oh. See if it works.
Breaking news.
10 million shortage of healthcare workers by 2030.
There's been another cyber attack. It's our time.
This is our journey.
You've set the stage for us. We've been watching and learning.
We're ready to step up.
We know the world has problems, and we're not backing down.
We're ready to make a difference.
We've got the skills.
We've prepared for this moment.
We've put in the time, sharpening our talents,
Learning from our mistakes.
understanding the issues,
Pushing the boundaries.
to pave our own path. Thank you.
For the support, the help.
But now it's our turn.
The world needs us. This is our moment to take what we have learned.
And lead. The world needs our skills. The world needs us. The world needs CTE.
That was terrific.
Good, right? That's just a glimpse. I'm so proud. I get chills every time I've watched it, and I've watched it like 100 times. They actually promoted it and launched it at the Vision Conference this year.
President Garber, members of the Harvard Corporation and the Board of Overseers.
When they launched it, though, I got chills and kind of tears in my eyes. Those are our students from Cabarrus County Schools. Those are our facilities. They're our teachers. They're amazing. We do great things here, and I'm very, very proud to be the director here. I'll open it if you have questions, and I apologize I talked a lot, but just
Well,
a lot.
there's a ton of stuff going on, and
Yeah.
you're very knowledgeable of all that. So thank you for the presentation. Board members, do we have any further questions? Okay. Go ahead, Melanie.
That's just one. So when you're looking for partners, obviously they're mostly local, correct?
For the most part, yes. We've had some great partnership meetings this week alone with the motorsports industry and some other folks. But yeah, mostly local. Any opportunity for students is a win for us, though. And you know, community partners, but also any sort of guest speakers. We zoom in, you know, to people across the nation to talk with our students. So.
I was just wondering if there was any national or global. I mean, there's a limit to what we can do, obviously. So, but not every child is probably going to stay here. I mean, but a lot of what you're teaching are skills that they can take outside. They don't have to stay here in Cabarrus County. That was my point.
They don't, yes, but we do really try to highlight what's here.
Yes.
But yeah, we do know they won't all
We
stay.
hope they stay.
Right, exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Catherine.
We've been touring a lot of the high schools, and I think the CTE classes have been my favorite.
Thank you.
And a lot of them, it is their second career, and I've just been impressed with all of them on how they engage the students, and the students love it, and so I do appreciate it.
Thank you for that feedback.
Greg.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but if
you're
my
fine.
business or if some other business happens to be watching this and they want to participate, where do they go? How do they get involved?
They can contact me directly. I'm on the website, but we also have a partnership form that's sent out on Friday 5. So that would be the beginning connection. And then, of course, trying to pull them into business advisory so they can learn more about all of our programs and just trying to figure out where the connection is and how we can support them.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
There was a second item on the on your. Do you need us to sign something, or need me to sign something?
Yes, that's for the CLNA.
And what is that?
It's basically just a document of assurances stating that you're agreeing to what I've currently presented to you this evening.
Board members okay with me signing that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move on to our next one, which is 5.04, Continuous Improvement Process Update. And we have Dr. Bowers and Mrs. Sarah Reeves coming to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. Good evening to you, sir. Good evening to Dr. Picky and members of the board. It is certainly our pleasure to be here with you tonight to provide you with an update on continuous improvement here in Cabarrus County Schools. I think you just saw a wonderful example of that with Ms. Ritter's presentation. You think about some of the things she shared with you about how our CTE program is really expanding its opportunities to create access for students and certainly give them avenues to which they may have not otherwise had due to some of our program offerings. But there's a reflective piece to that, and there's also a forecasting ahead, saying what do we do different. And certainly tonight we want to be able to share with you so you have a good understanding of what we as a district really believe is a model for other districts to consider when it comes to continuous school improvement. And when I speak of that, is a collective approach. This is one in which both district, schools, and all staff and all hands involved really truly understand what the effort's going to be. Dr. Kapicki spoke earlier about some early returns that we're seeing and some of the successes that we anticipate based on this year. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of the wonderful people that are in the field doing the work every single day in their efforts. But that also comes with intentional planning. That also comes with an intentional focus. That also comes with leveraging resources. And to do that, it takes all of us. And so to understand how this framework works and how it unfolds, we just want to be able to share with you some of the things that we're excited have really come to fruition over the last couple of years. And we believe that there's always opportunity for growth and strengthening this. But together we can do that. You'll see here just an overview of what we plan to share with you tonight. It's more process driven tonight. So again, I caution that saying these are not really results driven. That's not something which we'll be able to share to say, hey, here are the fruits of the labor just yet. But it talks about what folks understand is the way in which we go about continuous improvement within our school district. Because when all hands are united and all individuals are on the same page, it really just intensifies the efforts, and we're able to then truly maximize achievement and outcome for students. So Ms. Ritter mentioned this early in her presentation. One of the things we're always looking to do is to move from this image to this image. How do we make it better? And making it better means not resting. It means celebrating when you're able to have achievements and success to which you can actually certainly step back and feel as if you have seen those efforts play out, but also knows that there's more to be done because every student matters. And that's what that image on the right represents, making it better for every child. When doing this, we want to make sure that we're aligned in doing so. And that's an important aspect of this, is that alignment, not only with our schools, not only with the district, but also what has the state of North Carolina identified as those priorities to which they say this is important for students and this is what it will take to continue to enhance and improve public education for all students in the state of North Carolina. So you begin with the State Board of Education strategic priorities. You then look and say, Portrait of a Graduate, which the state of North Carolina has unveiled, and quite honestly, gives you a blueprint for what it takes to be a successful graduate from any school in the state of North Carolina to have now transferable skills that they could take to the marketplace, or post-secondary institution, or into the military, or whatever other opportunities lie ahead of them. And those are not really things that are taught on test. These are things to which we know are proven metrics of success for individuals. Soft skills, collaboration, communication, adaptability, empathy, being a critical thinker, personally responsible. These are things that matter. And again, what we find is our schools, through their own creative ways, are ways they integrate this within their planning. Such when we talk about things at the district level, such as our strategic priorities, you can see we find ways to intentionally mention them. So I talked about alignment. First one right there at the State Board of Education, eliminate opportunity gaps for students. We will find that closely aligned with our strategic priorities here in Cabarrus County Schools. When you look at improving school and district performance, that's the very basis of what we do. That is why we are here, to make opportunities better for students and to certainly improve outcomes in what they have access to. And we want to do that by enhancing our educator workforce. We want to make sure that every child, we continue to have quality, effective instructors in front of them. Now for us, this may look a little different, but ultimately you see those same traits evident here with our very own strategic priorities. And this was again, the blueprint for schools this year to say, as we go about our school improvement planning efforts, as we go about continuous improvement, align yourself with the strategic priorities. Let's focus on teaching and learning. Let's focus on student wellness. Let's give ourselves opportunities to be able to enhance and expand and create the skill sets of our labor force out there. And ultimately, where it lands is here. And this is unique in the sense because this is a locally generated, locally created framework. This imagery that you see here was done by many people in this room 2 years ago. And when we launched this, it really gave us something that we could rally behind for schools to say, what does continuous improvement look like? Because if you don't have that archetype and you don't have that exemplar, it's difficult to really grasp all of the aspects of it. But when you can really create an imagery behind it, and now individuals understand what is being asked of them, this is now what we're able to currently leverage and really hang our hat on and say, moving forward, here's how we define it here in Cabarrus County Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Bowers. So believe it or not, about a year ago, we were convening with all of our schools to launch summer leadership in 2024, and we wanted to make a specific intentional effort to make sure that not only were our schools developing very intentional school improvement plan goals, but ideally those were aligned to what Dr. Bowers was just sharing around our Destination 2025, our strategic plan, but then we were also uniting intentionally with supports that we were able to provide each of the schools. So each of our schools ended up going into summer leadership when they were developing their school improvement plan goals, and we asked each school to commit to developing a student wellness goal, a teaching and learning goal. If they were in elementary school, they developed this in foundational literacy, in middle school around 8th grade math, and then in high school around Math 1. If they were an ATSI school, meaning they received a designation of a specific growth status for a subgroup, they also needed to have a goal specific to that subgroup in order to make sure that there was an intentional focus and continuous improvement in student achievement. And then last but not least, we still wanted schools to be able to have flexibility. So there may have been something in their comprehensive needs assessment or within specific programming or community needs that they felt like they really needed an intentional goal around, and they had the flexibility to do so. But we had the ability as a district to unite around specific teaching and learning and student wellness goals to have a shared focus, as Dr. Bowers shared previously. And so when we talk about district support, it really is all hands on deck. And that is something that I think we are very proud of and intentional of, is just making sure that our schools have everything that they need in order to be successful. And so we like to bucket that specifically in curriculum and instruction around curriculum, school support, and professional development. And that starts with core supports, but obviously we know that there is no one size fits all. Each of our schools are uniquely positioned and have different needs, and so we want to make sure that our framework is adaptable to that, but also responsive to individual school needs, not only year to year, but month by month. And that's what our benchmark assessments give us, is live active data to make those real-time decisions to be able to respond to supports throughout the course of the year. And so one of the things that we've really intentionally focused on over the last couple of years is tailored curriculum supports. You all were a huge support and advocate for us when we presented our arts and letters curriculum adoption for 2nd through 8th grade, which will launch this fall. But prior to that, we were intentionally doing other supports as it related to curriculum. And so here are just some of the curriculum launches that happened over the last school year that were really intentionally tailored to not only what the data said, but also what we knew was happening at a state level, specifically related to legislation. And so throughout the course of the 24-25 school year, I can confidently say that all of these curriculum supports were implemented. We're still receiving feedback from our school-based staff on what needs to be tweaked and modified, but we're continuing through that, and we will be back to you to share additional updates on what we are going to be continuing to enhance as we start the 25-26 school year. Additionally, we had professional development and tailored supports. And what I like to say is we had core professional development that every staff or every administrator received, but then we also had tailored differentiated supports based on school needs. So some of the professional development is listed here. One of the things that I think has been really we have intentionally committed to is building leadership capacity. So with an ever-evolving workforce, we have heavily relied on veteran and seasoned teachers, but also what we call our PLC activators to really help colleagues in their schools that teach similar content areas to be able to support them, because it does take a village, and certainly you need colleagues around you to support you when you are teaching a new content or potentially teaching the same content but want different levels of expertise. And I think having that ability and that framework has been very powerful. Additionally, we've really committed to a lot of district level supports in our monthly professional development for our principals and assistant principals, specifically around our core tenets of teaching and learning. I like to say that's our vision or our ideal state. As Dr. Bauer shared, it's so important to put into words and create the verbiage for what you expect is the guaranteed experience for every child across the county, regardless of the student, regardless of the school. And so we've worked a lot on being able to provide high quality intentional feedback to our teachers, but also what does that need to look like in the planning process. And then last but not least, I touched on this previously, but really talking about strategic school support. And I think this is one area that I am most proud of as an organization, where we're able to really look at what is the school needs and what does the data say this school needs, and not having a one-size-fits-all approach for our schools, because we know that that's not what students need, that's not what teachers need, and that's certainly not what our schools need. And so we call these continuous school improvement meetings, but essentially what they are intentional conversations and dialogues with school leaders around what their needs are, and then being able to take that out to the schools and be able to conduct learning walks, have dialogue with teachers and staff to be able to make sure that our specialists or our support staff are able to deploy support where needed. And that could look like teacher support, but that could also look like resource or curriculum support. So each of those conversations are completely unique, but it really allows us to be able to speak to the boots on the ground. What are you seeing at the school level? What do you need, and how can we best assist you and support you? And last but not least, I would say this is something that we continue to strive towards, which is really the response to data-driven instruction and letting the data do the conversation and the talking points. And so we work very much hand in hand with multiple departments to host our data digs, but we use the InStructure benchmark data to really drive these conversations throughout the year, so that when we get to the end of year, it is not a surprise to us. We know exactly where we are, and we've had a finger on it throughout the course of the year. And so being able to have these data digs and respond to schools with where are we seeing growth opportunities, but also where are we seeing potential strengths within the county, so that we can help align the best practices that are happening classroom to classroom and school to school, so that we can help replicate those practices on a larger scale, but also connect teachers with one another, which really builds up that teacher efficacy. And so with that being said, I'll turn it over to Dr. Bowers with next steps on timeline.
So what can we expect moving forward? And as we talked about continuous improvement, the work is never done. It's wonderful to celebrate and certainly reflect, and to be able to take an exhale from time to time and certainly champion our efforts. But also we know that doing that means that you're not moving forward if you don't continue to get back in the lab, so to speak, and say, okay, what's next? Where did we not quite meet that standard we've set for ourselves? So some feedback we've gotten from our schools is that they've told us loud and clear, we would love to have protected time to be able to work on our school improvement planning efforts. We would love to have some protected time to be able to meet with members of our team and not only evaluate the year that has just concluded, but also begin to plan for the year that is to come. And so with our Summer Leadership Academy, what we've been able to do is intentionally build that in for school improvement teams, school leaders to come together and to have dedicated time where they can actually focus on the work that was done and then what remains to be done. And so next week, we'll be hosting our administrators and their teams at Cox Mill High School to begin the next step of this journey. And so with that, they'll look back, learn from lessons of the past, and then start forecasting ahead to say, what then does 25-26 look like for us? And then over the summer months, what you'll see is they'll be able to share their goals with district staff, and we'll be able to provide feedback for support to ensure that alignment is in place, not only with what we've established for our district set of priorities, but also those priorities which are at the state level as well. And then during the month of July, they'll continue to get feedback from their peers on sharing strategies, action steps. What do these plans look like? What does execution now start to look like as we move forward? August, staff return. And that's the time to begin sharing. These are the goals to which schools have established with their teams, to get feedback and certainly have a common understanding of what is the task that is set before them for the upcoming academic year. And then you can see in September, schools approve their plans, and then October, we're prepared to bring those to you, the board, for approval. This is a fluid, ongoing process. It never stops. And so one of the things that we're certainly proud of is that our schools have really embraced this. And I think they have continued to put themselves in a position to where when these goals now all of a sudden, again, they don't live on a shelf. They don't go somewhere in a book where you bring them out at the end of the year and you assess. This is part of what they do each and every day. And it drives the mission at hand. And we know that that's what is best for students. And so with that, we'll pause and we'll take any questions you may have.
Board members, questions? Shannon?
So does the district give a framework on how each school improvement team should operate? Or is that kind of a site-based decision? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, does each school kind of operate or have their own framework on how they develop their plan? Or is that something that the district says, we use this framework in developing the plan? Because
Totally
I think
understand.
each school kind of does it differently
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
don't they?
That's right. What the process now that plays out at the school level is unique to that school itself. Again, when you think about the makeup of their teams, there are statutory requirements that say that there have to be certain members that serve on a school improvement team. Our schools abide by that. And so those requisite members are in place. But then how they then go about what the meeting construct looks like, what their teams then to which are going to handle much of the lift when we get into the action steps and when we get into what are going to be the strategies. That does vary site by site because we believe that having that autonomy to be able to do what is best for that school community is certainly important.
Okay, Melanie?
You mentioned the word or the term protected time. I think that's what we have heard a lot about, that teachers need more time to prepare, and so that would, I'm saying that will dovetail into the professional development that they're, how much of this could have been done at the university level to have, are you getting any feedback from that they wish they had had this at the university so they don't continue to have training after they're on the job?
So one of the things I will say, I think we're uniquely positioned in some situations we do hear feedback, things like letters training. We've been looking at how do we support at the university level. In other instances, I think some of it is based on the job type professional development, and once you're in it, knowing the practices that you can employ and enlist immediately afterwards. And so those are some of the things that we're thinking through, and we definitely have partnerships with some of the local universities where we are engaging in those conversations.
You good, Melanie? So I guess my question will be, Caleb, if you, how does this get down to the teacher level, you in the classroom?
So I've served on a few years worth of SIT teams, but essentially the team, which was described, has requisites like the membership has to be elected, you have members of your school across various elements, there's parent representation, there's administrative representation. The school improvement team itself will meet, from my experience, we had a summer meeting back when I was on it and anticipating the upcoming school year. And typically at those meetings, again, this could be very specific to mine, but we have teams that each work on an individual goal. So normally the schools have 3 school improvement goals, and those could be ranging from focusing on student engagement, including technology and accommodating and diversifying your learning opportunities. And then once we begin work on those goals over the course of the year, as a staff, you are kind of held to a standard of understanding your school improvement goals so that you know what you're working towards for the year. And then the school improvement team itself will meet regularly, usually in like 1-month intervals, where they look at how their progress over the course of the year is kind of outlined in the school improvement goals, but also where's the evidence of basically meeting those goals. So as a teacher, the goals that are set for you, because you elect your representative, so like we would elect a social studies representative for the school improvement team from my school, and then every department would have their representation on there, and then there's a member who basically relays back to the rest of your staff within your department. So it's kind of like little militaristic style, where like you have a few people at the top who then disseminate information down as needed in order to kind of control the objectives and make sure the right people are in the right place, so that the right people can eventually understand what the goals are and how you move forward.
I appreciate your perspective. Gives us a much better understanding. Catherine?
I was SIT team chair for many, many years here. And we used to have a professional development with all the chairs in the county. Because as Shannon said, every school does it differently. And, you know, I think it would be helpful if we got back to doing just a 2-hour training of all school improvement team chairs to get some consistency in the county. And also, kind of going back to what Caleb said, you know, we always encourage teachers to take a school improvement plan goal as their PDP. And that way it's serving two purposes. But I just think we've kind of gotten away from that, and that's where the inconsistency has come.
Thank you, Catherine. Anybody else? Okay. I guess back to you.
Well, thank you. That concludes our presentation.
All right. Well, again, appreciate the update, and I guess we're going to be. When is the summer leadership?
It's next week.
Next week. All right. So right around the corner. So thank you so much for your update for the board. We'll move on to our next report item, which is 5.05, and we have a monthly budget summary to the board from Mr. Philip Penn. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dr. Kapicki, fellow board members. Appreciate you being here and giving you another chance to kind of give you an update on where we are. For some of you that were at the Finance Committee meeting last week, I apologize for the repetitive nature. You get to hear it twice. But just to kind of give you an update from where we were in the past month, I would say our financial position continued to improve in the past month, which is certainly good news. I would predict that our deficit right now has dropped to about 5.2 million. We can talk a little bit about what are the factors that have gone into that in a few seconds here. The good news is that means that we have the ability to close the deficit using some of the remaining fund balance that we have at this point. The bad news is we will be consuming fund balance to close the deficit, which means it doesn't make it available in future years, obviously. It's a bit like tapping your savings account to close an expense need in your checking account. Once you do that, it's not like the money goes back, right? You have to have surpluses in future years in order to rebuild your fund balance. Good news that we experienced in the past month, we did receive a settlement letter for the 23-24 year from the state office that oversees Medicaid. That greatly increases the likelihood we will see those funds prior to the end of the 24-25 fiscal year. That's $879,000 that we've included in that forecast to get us down to the 5.2 million. Fines and forfeitures revenue has exceeded $100,000 in each of the last 2 months. It is significantly above the run rate that we've been experiencing earlier in the year. One of the updates that I provided at the Finance Committee is that there are two main factors that have been driving why fines and forfeitures were so low. Collections on delinquent taxes have dropped to half of what they were in prior years. Doesn't mean that there's not delinquent taxes out there. It just means the collections are not coming in as robustly as they have been before. The second one was we had collected on a bail bond, apparently, in the prior year, and a bounty hunter brought the suspect back to the county. And when that happens, you actually refund the amount of the bail bond. So there's no reserve that gets held at the court level for doing that, so it impacts your current year in that they have to refund the money back to the bail bond company. Interesting little tidbit about how that operates. I had no idea, but that is a key factor as to why our number was down for this year. We're still in the process of closing out year end, obviously, at this point. We're about 4 weeks to go. As of last week, we had about 1,100 purchase orders that we needed to close out. From the ones that we had closed out, we were able to return about $60,000 back to the funding lines that produced them, which means they help to offset where we are with the deficit. And given where we are now with 1 month to go and school over, we have frozen basically all spending at this point, other than recurring monthly costs like copiers and utilities and things of that nature, and that, of course, our payroll. If we could scroll down a little bit, just knowing how important that the fund balance was to the current fiscal picture, I wanted to kind of recap how the fund balance lays out. The actual fund balance, the available portion of it, was $8.05 million at June 30th, 2024. We then consumed $700,000 of that for the Apple lease. The $2.3 million we've talked about for the ELA curriculum, that was actually down a bit from the $2.8 we thought we were going to consume, but we were able to negotiate that price thanks to Ms. Reeves' efforts on that. Chromebooks, we had to buy Chromebooks obviously this year because we did not get funded on any devices by the county. We used $1.3 million. I mentioned to you that we found an opportunity to bring $1.6 million back to our fund balance as a result of money that was given to Kids Plus during the pandemic to make sure that they can maintain their payroll during that time frame. And in the 4 years in between, we never brought it back until now. So we're picking that $1.6 million up. I've been talking for several months now about savings that we've identified. There was about half of what we identified went back into the fund balance. That's the $624,000 that you see there. So as of 5/19, we had available fund balance, and this is in our local funds, of about $5.9 million. I'm proposing in the budget amendment that we have before you tonight to consume that $1.6 million that came to us from Kids Plus against the current year's expenses. That will leave, once that's been appropriated, $4.3 million to continue to offset the deficit as we go forward here. But that's only part of the story. If we can scroll to the next page. Fund 8, which is our special revenues, is got a fund balance at June 30th, 2024 of about $5.5 million. Actually, it's the second page of the memo, if we can get, yeah, there you go, that's perfect. So at the top, we actually had designated for use in the current fiscal year $1.1 million, and being blunt, I forgot that we had done that. We had looked ahead to what our costs were going to be, mostly for insurance and from couple of other different things, and said, at the time our financials were being created, that we were going to designate for use $1.1 million of that fund balance. That too can serve against that $5 million fund balance that we still, $5 million deficit that we continue to have. And so what I've highlighted, and this is actually a screenshot of our actual financial reports for that 23-24 year. You'll see toward the bottom on the left in the general fund, that's our local funds, the amount of the $8.05 million that we had available to us. In the far right-hand column, that's Fund 8. That's our other special revenue fund. That's where all our little mini grants flow through. It's where our Medicaid money flows through. It's where our indirect costs from federal grants flow through. You'll see the $1.1 million that we have designated there for use. That would leave an additional $4.4 million out there for fund balance. So the good news is we've got an opening here to be able to close out this year's deficit. As I said, the bad news is once you use it, you don't get it back right away, right? It takes time to rebuild that. And we can already see some headwinds building at the county level, at the state level, that will provide challenges into 25-26. And if I was standing here today saying, are we likely to face a deficit for next year? There's a good possibility we are going to face one, right? We're doing everything we can to prevent that. And at the Finance Committee meeting, you probably heard me speak to advocacy for making sure that our budget gets approved in the manner it was presented. As I understand, they are conducting their public hearing tonight, concurrent with this meeting. There is a budget work session that they're conducting tomorrow that I'll be paying attention to see what comes out of that. They will vote on our budget 2 weeks from tonight. So to the extent advocacy can take place from any of the parents of other supporters that are out there, as I said at the Finance Committee, they're used to hearing it from Dr. Kopicki and I. They need to hear it from other people too, right? So that's kind of where we are on sort of where we see 25-26 starting to shape up. One of the questions that got asked is what happens now through the remainder of the fiscal year? Well, a big piece of it is making sure we close out all those open purchase orders. It was 1,100 last week. We're down to 600 as I stand here today, 500 of which are at the department level. So I'll be making a comment at our cabinet meeting tomorrow to continue to close out those efforts to make sure we have all of the funds that are held up on those purchase orders either paid through the invoices that are attributed to them or returned to their budget lines, as the case may be. We're trying to make sure at this point, obviously, that we maximize every dollar available to us in the state funding that we have. We do a very good job of that. The good news is we made significant progress with all of the software issues that have been identified when Ms. York spoke a few months ago to the Finance Committee about Link and some of their issues interfacing with the state systems. We made good progress along those fronts. Cash flow is a big thing that we need to manage in the month of June. We have a $10 million payroll going out next week. The second half of the supplements for our certified staff. So we manage cash flow very, very carefully during the month of June to make sure all our bills are paid, all the payroll is met, and that type of thing without having to borrow from inter-funds. There is some possibility we may have to do that to close up the year, but that's something we're paying a lot of attention to right now as well. And then lastly, internally within my team, we have our final budget review of the year, where we literally go PRC by PRC with each of the funds. We'll do that on Thursday. That work will be a big component to what we come to you on June 30th with, for how much of the fund balance we need to appropriate in order to close out the year. And then we will probably go high on that estimate to make sure that we have enough revenue to cover everything that we need. Anything that we appropriate and don't use reverts back into the fund balance. So it's not like by appropriating it, you lose it. But we want to make sure that we have enough identified at the time we go forward. So that'll be a big component coming out of Thursday's work, is to make sure that we're prepared for that meeting on June 30th, which I hopefully is not going to be more than a 15-minute meeting to us to present sort of where we see the final results for the year.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. We covered a lot on Thursday. We also covered a lot here. Board members, any comments, questions on what was just presented to us? All right, well, stick around because we're
here for the next two items, I think, yes.
Going to move on to items for consider action for next week, and these are items that will be presented to us that we'll have to vote on. We can either, if we're comfortable with what we've been presented, we can add it to a consent, or we can actually add it to action for next week. So we'll start with 6.01, which is the 2024-25 budget amendment number 8.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're up to number 8 already, but here we are. And as the memo sort of documents, there are changes in funds 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. And I'll go through all the changes for you. State Public School Fund, there was an increase of about $125,000. It's an increased allotment for student transportation of homeless and foster children, so that's good news. In additional funds for National Board Certification support to the tune of $14,000. Local Fund 2, this one's a little bit quirky, just bear with me. It's an accounting convention that we're dealing with that our auditors have recommended to us. We need to record the full value of the lease of the Apple products. So it's the 4-year impact is about $4.4 million, or about $1.1 million a year. But there's an offsetting revenue item that ascribes to that as well, that basically makes sure that we're not reporting more expenses in the current year than we have. But this is a way for people to understand, under a new accounting convention coming in, what long-term liabilities look like in any kind of governmental agency. So this is something that's being done. It's also very similar to how we record the leases for the new school buses that we have. So this is something that's playing in the same vein. We're also looking at a number of different software things that we have right now to make sure when we have a multi-year software agreement, and you may recall the board approved a number of those last month, have to be accounted for in the same way. So those will actually hit in the 25-26 year, but these are ones that are hitting in 24-25, which is why this item's in front of you tonight. Federal funds, there were a number of transfers between budget lines, but all netted out to zero, so there's no overall impact to the budget. Within our capital fund, we had $87,000 from the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau for 2 new features at the J.M. Robinson track. One of those was a new shot put landing zone, and the second one was a towable section of bleachers, so they provided the funding for both of those. Kids Plus, that's the recognition of the $1.6 million that they've returned to us. That's what that number in that Fund 7 looks like. And then within our special revenue grant, Fund 8, we had an net increase of about $137,000. Additional Medicaid funds, and these are the restricted Medicaid funds that come in periodically. This is not the big unrestricted stuff that we're more concerned about, making sure we get in by the end of the year. A new CTE grant. CTA is a hot topic tonight, awarded to Mount Pleasant High School to the tune of $85,000, and we also got $27,000 for the budgets for some of the STEAM and STEM camps that are running this summer. Overall, when you factor in everything, that's an overall increase of $4.7 million, so we are now a $551 million enterprise if you look across all funding sources. So that's the nature of the budget amendment I'm looking for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Questions on budget amendment number 8? Sam?
So, Mr. I'm not an accountant. Um, the second bullet item,
Yes, sir.
what I, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just a way of showing future liabilities?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Yeah. It's making sure that the public has the total view of what your future liabilities look like. That's right.
And these are computers that we keep after the lease, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right, board members, are we comfortable with adding this to consent, or do we need more information? We all good? Consent on this side? All right, we'll add that one to our consent agenda for next week.
Perfect, thank you.
And 6.02 is the continuing budget resolution for the 2025-26.
So a continuing budget resolution is the methodology for which we continue to operate beginning on July 1st when we don't have a full budget in place. Obviously at this point we're still waiting on county decisions. The state is progressing along in terms of their negotiations on a budget, but we may not see that for several more months. What a continuing budget resolution allows you to do is continue operating the normal day-to-day expenses of the district. Again, pay your utilities, make your payroll. It doesn't allow you to do any kind of big spends outside of those type of day-to-day activities, right? But it gives you a methodology to making sure that there's continuity to the operations of the district while you're waiting for the rest of the budget pieces to come into place. And for us to bring what would be the initial budget resolution to you for the 25-26 year, probably sometime in September or October, and of course that date being dependent upon what the state does with its budget in the next couple months here.
And we've done this every year since I've been on the board. Pam?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I just want to confirm that we're basically using this year's numbers until we get the new numbers.
And it's really just a portion of this year's numbers, right?
Okay.
Yeah, just you can't go past what you expended in this year. That's right.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for the question. Okay, board members, are we okay with this on consent? Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, then we'll add that one to our consent agenda as well.
Perfect.
So thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Finn. And we'll move on to 6.03 for Ms. Stephanie Allman, and she's coming up to talk about the 2025-26 meal prices, school meal prices. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you have good news for us. So.
I do. Okay, so let me go to the next page. Oh, I think I just stopped it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so these are the current meal prices that we have. We have let me back up just a little bit. So each district sets meal prices based on what their current requirements are. There are federal requirements for lunches, but those have not really been in play so much since COVID. So it's not really included in this, although we're meeting all the requirements for it. Since I think probably about 2013, the state has funded the reduced price breakfast meals. When they discontinued the kindergarten breakfast, you might remember that time, they decided to fund the 30-cent reduced price breakfast copay. We have no indication that that's going anywhere, so that's very good news. About 3 years ago or so, maybe when we were coming out of the fully free meals from COVID, the state began funding the reduced price copay for lunch as well, which is 40 cents. That is currently up in the air, but it is included in the House proposed budget to continue to cover that. So I expect it to continue, but I will certainly let you know if it doesn't, because at that point we'll have to charge the students that copay. But we're going under the assumption that the Senate will follow suit like they have in the last 3 or 4 years. So let me just give you a little bit of qualification real quick. Elementary is, of course, pre-K through grade 5. Secondary is grade 6 through 13 at the early college. Reduced and free is obviously the same, so reduced becomes free, which is definitely a benefit to our students. Quick Bites is a high school meal only. It's kind of like a premier meal that they offer, that we only have to the high school students. We have not done a price increase since 22-23. We have been fortunate enough that the COVID era reimbursements and grants and things like that that we have been able to take full advantage of those, and so we do not need to raise prices again this year, so I'm very happy about that. Other reasons for that is we've taken advantage of any time we have grants and extra funds that are available. Supply chain assistance funds have been a thing up until about this year, when we had a lot of trouble just getting some of the products when they were coming from overseas, and that continued for a couple of years beyond COVID. Equipment assistance grants, I'll talk a little bit more about that. There is a little bit of reduction in what the USDA gave to each state to disperse among school districts, so we did not get any of that funding this year. Fortunately, it was a small amount. And then we are very, very careful in making sure our purchasing and our expenses are monitored very carefully. Our menus are planned out through next year, so we're able to do a fairly accurate, as accurate as planning out for over a year can be, figuring out how much we're going to need and predicting that, and taking advantage of USDA donated foods, which we used to be called commodities. You might be familiar with that term. It's where USDA basically provides some foods. Lots of them are fruits and vegetables, but many of them there are meats and some prepared things like fajita meat and so on. And we receive a certain amount that is based on our participation in lunch from about 2 years prior. So we make sure we use every bit of that we can to offset the cost of purchasing things at commercial. How long do we think we can keep this up? Well, as long as we possibly can, we will. We certainly hope, and the plan is through the remainder of this year. As you've heard me talk before, things are a little bit unpredictable right about now. So we're keeping a close eye on certain things. Some legislation has come down with not very much notice. We had a local foods for schools grant, we call that LFS grant, that we were expecting some funding for that this year, and literally from Friday to Monday those funds were canceled, so we had to, that was for the 24-25 school year, so we were fortunate that we were able to we still had funding that we could use for that, but none of this is really guaranteed until it is signed into law, is basically. We're just trying to keep a close eye on it. Labor costs, salaries could increase depending on what state budgets end up doing sometimes, whether this year or another year. Staffing changes, obviously we try to be very frugal with those things. And then food or other costs. We're going to talk in my next segment a little bit about food costs, so I'll elaborate on that just a little bit. But as we've seen since COVID, the price of things have gone up significantly. So we just try to do the best we can to get the lowest price with the highest quality on things. But for the most part, for the foreseeable future through this school year, unless something dramatic changes, you shouldn't see me again asking for any kind of adjustment on that. Any questions on this?
Questions, board members? Sam?
How would you describe your equipment?
Our equipment, in what, do you mean like the status of it?
Yes. I know that's a generalistic question.
That's
okay.
Not
fair, but
that's okay.
Schools, I'm sure, vary quite a bit. But
As
a whole,
we have been very fortunate that we have replaced. I would really be hazarding a guess, but I would probably say half of our equipment in the past 4 years. You might recall a few years ago, we were asking for funding for that. Those COVID-era reimbursements and supply chain assistance funds helped us to take advantage of that. So we have a lot of newer equipment. What we're finding, however, is that it doesn't last as long as it used to. It used to be very common for, let's say, a reach-in refrigerator to last 15, 20 years. Now, a lot of these things that we just bought 4 years ago are dying. And so that's unfortunate, and so we're ending up having a recurring cost, but we're working on kind of creating a equipment replacement plan, so it's a little bit more structured and deliberate, but for now, we're replacing as much as we can. So it's in fairly decent shape, but there are some things that still need to be purchased and replaced.
Is that good, Sam? Pam?
Thank you. How does growth factor into being able to keep the price the same?
So growth actually can help that. Sometimes it can hurt it, but a lot of times it helps it. If we are able to take advantage of economies of scale, for instance, a school that feeds a lot of students is going to have a lower cost per student than a very small school. We can certainly counteract that through certain things like satellite delivery of things like that, so we don't have to staff a school if it's very, very tiny, like some of our tiny programs. But for the most part, a larger school can be much more efficient just from the aspect of school nutrition. You can sometimes you would only have to say maybe add one more person to feed 25% more people, as opposed to two separate schools that might have to have 4 or 5 people each. If they're combined, it helps us. That economy of scale just helps us to be able to purchase things in better quantities. The better quantities you have, the fewer deliveries you have. It just really builds into keeping that cost low because it can help us be far more efficient. Does that answer?
Anybody else? Okay, well, we do have the task of per policy of approving lunch prices every year, so if we're all okay with no increase, we can send that to consent. Is that good with everybody? Yep. All right, that'll be moved to consent, and you did have another item next, don't you?
I do.
I think that would be 6.04, approval of school nutrition annual contracts.
Yes.
We have 4 of those contracts, right?
I do have 4 of those this year, and they are all renewals. So to bring everybody up to speed, I know we have some newer members of the board that haven't been through this before. So each year, SMP will enter into contracts that are with specific vendors to provide goods and services that we are going to use all year, things we're going to purchase all year long, in order to maximize the purchase price and our purchasing power, I mean, really. So we do have 4 of those for the upcoming school year. Why is it a advantage for us to renew? Well, if a vendor is consistently giving us good service, our price is working for us. If they're consistently meeting our students' needs and everything is working well, we want to try to continue that relationship whenever possible, whenever it's practical. Especially if the cost is exactly where you need it, because things don't go down from year to year, they go up from year to year. So the longer you can stay in a contract with someone that's providing satisfactory service, it's an advantage. So the renewal can only be granted if the district and the vendor agree. So the vendor has to agree to hold the price equal or lower, but we've never had anybody go lower, but equal or lower to the existing or initial contract. If they are able to do that, then all the other terms and conditions stay the same, with the exception of a few minor things, which I'll tell you in just a moment what those minor things are. But if they're not able to hold prices, for instance, then we would have to go out for a new bid, where we would solicit bids from the similar vendors, in order to obtain a contract for that, whatever that category is. So what changes are allowed depends on the contract type. So we have 2 main contract types. The first one is a cost plus fixed fee. The easiest way to think of this is the vendor goes out and they buy something for $5. They then sell it to us for $5, but then they add $1 on for a handling fee. That's really the thing that is negotiated when it comes to groceries, for instance, supplies such as trays or towels or things like that. They are passing on exactly the same costs that they get from their suppliers, but they are giving us a competitive, or you hope it's competitive, handling fee, that fixed fee. So neither while from year to year, the fixed fee cannot change, the price of the product can, because they're basically just passing it along to us. A unit cost is exactly what you would do if you were just to go to the grocery store or somewhere and buy something. When you pick up something and you go to the register, all that vendor's costs are wrapped up in what you pay, that one price. So you don't have anything separate. It's just a unit cost, and you pay by what you are purchasing. So if you're buying a bunch of celery or a case of mashed potato flakes or whatever it is, it's just that unit cost. There's nothing extra on top of it. So these are the 4 categories that we are asking for approval for renewal for. First is groceries and supplies. Technically, those are 2 separate lots, but it's almost always the same vendor that we go with. Gordon Food Service has been our current provider for actually several years. The contract is structured as a cost plus fixed fee, and you see the projected bottom line. We project that bottom line by comparing what we think we are going to order from them next year based on our menu that we've already developed and the prices that they have quoted us for the year. Those prices are good for the year with a few exceptions. Usually we have a handful of things that around February 1st that comes into play. They have a few things that will have a price increase on. Other than that, those cannot change unless we have a force majeure requested and approved. We are in year 4, so regardless, after this year, we will have to go out for bid again on groceries and supplies because we cannot renew past that 4th year. Produce, we are also in year 3 of 4 with company R&H Produce out of Raleigh, Gordon Food Services in Kannapolis. Also a cost plus fixed fee for $458,000, projected bottom line, developed the same way. Our 3rd category is milk, which we also get locally from Paul Campbell Distributors. That is a unit cost, so we pay per half pint, per gallon, per whatever. That projected bottom line is just over $1 million, and we are in year 3 of 4 renewals as well. And then the final group is cleaning chemicals. We purchase this through Alco, which they are located in Mooresville, and that is a bottom line. So we pay a amount per month for each of our schools to be serviced, and by service they stop by and check the inventory and see what they need and need to purchase, and so everything we need under that, plus some ancillary items such as things like mop heads and so on. We project that bottom line to be about $56,000, and this is the first year that we are renewing that. So again, just to kind of reiterate, why can bottom line totals change in renewal years? It's because of market conditions. A price may change that the vendor passes along that price. As long as that fixed fee, if it's a cost plus fixed fee, as long as that fixed fee stays the same, they can agree to renew, and we are able to ask them if they want to renew. Sometimes you have a product that's no longer available, so it's a higher priced product that comes in that you have to buy as a substitution. You might buy different quantities of things. You may want to change the menu. New items come available all the time, and you try to find things that are interesting for your students that they may want to try. Pack size changes. You've seen this already in the grocery store. You used to pay $3 for something that had 32 ounces. Now it only has 24 ounces. We see that constantly. And changes in number of schools, obviously. So you're buying more if you open schools. And then again, how often can we renew? The 4 annual renewals, plus the mandatory new bid after the 4th renewal. So funding, as you all will remember, we have the vast majority of our funding is from federal reimbursements and cash sales. We are known as an enterprise fund or a self-funded program within the school district. So these contract renewals are accounted for in our budget, which we are working on, have created for the next year, and we do believe that our revenues will cover those expenses. So again, we don't anticipate raising student meal prices like I had said in our previous segment, and we always continue to take advantage of those non-recurring grants and funds as often as we can, and then hopefully the state reimbursements will be in place. So we do expect to be able to cover the cost of those completely from next year. What questions do you have?
Questions, board members? Do we understand what we're voting on? We're voting on 4 contract renewals. Everybody understand that? Okay, so consent? Good for consent? Good for consent? All right, looks like we've got, that one will be added to consent as well. So
Very good. Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
for coming and visiting with us and sharing all that information.
Anytime.
So moving on to our next item on the agenda, which is 6.05, policies for first read. We have Mr. LeGrand with us tonight. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Kapicki, and members of the board. I have 4 policies to bring to you tonight for first read, all revisions recommended or required by the 2025 spring PLS updates. The first one is 1310/4002 parent involvement. There's 2 required revisions there. 6220 operation of school nutrition services, a single required revision there. 3400 evaluation of student progress. There are 3 recommended revisions to that policy, and 4040/7310 staff student relations. There are 2 recommended and 1 required revision on that policy.
Anything from our, go ahead, Pam.
Thank you. For 3400, when it says establishes when FF may be used, that's referring to kids' grades?
That is a code that is used with kids, with student grades in certain situations.
Okay.
Yes,
And they're recommending that we do this. Was it not clear before?
Formerly, it was used when a student failed or did not pass a class due to attendance. That code was used, and for example, they may have passed the class with a 95, but did not attend class a whole lot, and they did not meet the seat requirement.
Got it.
Now that FF is used by policy when there are attendance issues and the student is failing the class.
Okay. So it's indicating both the content understanding, but then also the requirements in the class.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Good question. Anyone on our policy committee have anything to add to these? Any other questions? I do. This is the one I usually have argued against in the past. So I'd like to see the operation of school nutrition services on action due to the conflicting information on the day of essentially a school day. The definition is different in this policy versus other policies, and I've got a problem with that. So anyway, anyone consent with the rest of them, or anybody else consent with the rest of them? Okay, so the consent with the rest of them, 6220 will be on action.
All right, moving forward with policies that are on second read, I bring to you 3 policies, and these are all revisions recommended or required by the 2025 spring PLS updates as well. The first one is 1510/4200/7270, which is school safety. There are 4 required revisions and 1 recommended. And the next one is 4240/7312, child abuse and related threats to child safety. There is 1 strongly recommended revision there. And lastly, 7130, which is a policy around licensure. There's 1 recommended and 1 strongly recommended. All of these policies were brought forth last month. This is the second read for these 3 policies.
Have we had feedback from anyone on
I have
those?
received no feedback on those.
And then as far as the safety one, that's not adding any additional work burden to any staff member. We're already doing those.
No.
Okay. Board members, are we consent? Okay, those will be all on consent. Thank you, Mr. LeGrand.
Thank you, Mr. Walter.
Moving along, this is a 6.07, request to approve spending additional lottery funds for Cabarrus County well, actually, Central Cabarrus High School roof. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So
Good
welcome,
evening, board
welcome,
members.
Mr. Taylor.
Dr. Kapicki. I want to apologize in advance. I'm going to be brief. I don't have a big presentation for you. So in April, I came to you and asked you to spend approximately $2.1 million on the Central Cabarrus roof. We were short $398,191. All I need from you tonight is to give it consideration and approval. Are there any questions?
Board members? We have no questions. Are we comfortable with what we're being asked to do? Consent. Consent, consent. You got consent, so we'll.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You as well. All right, moving on. 6.08, the annual member MOAs for RCCC and Cabarrus College of Health Sciences, and we welcome Mr. Gordon Palmer to the podium.
Thank you, Board Chair, Dr. Kapicki, members of the board. I bring these MOAs to you every year, so we renew them annually. These are for our CCP courses or our community college dual enrollment courses, in addition to our 3 early colleges. So we have 2 different MOAs. One is with Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and one is with the Cabarrus College of Health Science. We are mandated by state policy CACP-000, College and Career Promise, to have an agreement and renew that annually. And starting this year, in the summer of 2025, we will submit that to the state. That is something new that they just added, but our MOAs have been really an exemplar across our region and across the state, where individuals from the state have reached out to us for us to share ours with other districts that did not have these in place prior to. I've submitted the changes to you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'll start with the first MOA, which is our Cabarrus Health Science Institute, where we partner with the Cabarrus College of Health Science. We updated the admission process to really just reflect what we do in practice instead of what was originally put on our agreement in kind of philosophical terms. We connected policies to our board policies and practices to our board policies. We have cleaned up our transportation. This was really a benefit to us and something we were already doing in practice because we want to only have one calendar for our early colleges, but we understand that Rowan Cabarrus Community College and Cabarrus College of Health Science, they are not on the same calendar, but we have been able to have flexibility, and thanks to our transportation director, Art Whitaker, we were able to transport students just outside of inclement weather and federal holidays, where we could still transport students to our Cabarrus College of Health Science, even if the school was not in session that day. We made sure to clarify and align our graduation policy because this upcoming school year, we are very excited to add an additional 13th graduation ceremony with our early College of Health Science. So I will get to spend a little more time with you guys on that Saturday at West Cabarrus High School. We also added our AP Pre-Calculus, which is a new course. We saw great success with it last year, so we've added that to both agreements just to make sure that our students have the ability to take that course and progress through and articulate into more advanced courses after that. We've done that with the Cabarrus College of Health Science and also our early college and Cab Tech. The only other addition we had substantial addition that we had with Rowan Cabarrus Community College is that we set in writing that any fees that are collected through the college, those will remain set for the entire school year. If they change during a school year for an individual student, that's not as impactful, but we set our budgets well in advance, so we just want to make sure there's no changes. They're very gracious in that they had a change this year, which they realized wanted to support our program, so they kept the same fee, and then we just put it right in our agreement. So we work really well with Dr. Quillen and Dr. Atlas and all their staff at Rowan Cabarrus, and we have a great partnership that we are continuing. So if you have any questions, I'll open it to the board.
Board members, questions about these agreements? There's an awful lot of red on that Rowan.
They decided to clean up a lot of technical edits where they wanted to change RCCC to Rowan Cabarrus Community College. So they spelled out a lot of things, and where they didn't want certain personnel, whether it was capitalized or not.
But it's not changing the content.
That is not changing the content. That was more changing from Kelly Antonides to Dr. Atlas.
Okay, well, board members, we have a consent on this side. How about this side? Consent? Consent? Everybody good? All right, we will add those to our consent agenda.
Thank you.
So moving on again to, this is Brian. We got approval of the SPATCO, is that right? SPATCO
That is
using
correct,
Sourcewell
yes.
Cooperative Purchasing for Fuel Farm Project.
That is it. Good evening again. So as a part of the 2024 limited obligation bonds debt program, an upgraded fuel farm project was approved as one of the capital projects. Give you a little context to this request. Currently, the district has the capacity to store 29,000 gallons of diesel fuel and 16,000 gallons of gasoline. This gives them the ability to operate on about 6 to 7 days before they have to ask for refueling. Also, currently the fueling sites within the district are over 30 years old, and they were not designed with an operation of our size in mind. The intended goal of this refurbishment at the main site of the Auxiliary Services Building is to increase the total capacity to 61,000 gallons of diesel and 27,000 gallons of gas. This increase is going to allow the district to run on a 15 to 16 day cycle before they have to ask for refueling needs. This increased capacity is also going to allow the school system to purchase fuel in larger quantities, which will help them to negotiate a better purchasing power. Furthermore, this site is going to act as a strategic refueling reserve for the Cabarrus County's Emergency Management Services Group, allowing them to refuel on an emergency need basis as needed. So over the past few months, the construction department, transportation, and facilities have all collaborated closely to determine the most efficient path forward to bring this project to life. The team met with two independent, very reputable petroleum companies, Spatco Energy Solutions and JF Petroleum Group, both well qualified to complete the required upgrades. Both of these groups submitted to us a budget for consideration. Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing enables government organizations to purchase products and services at a competitive price. It conducts a national competitive bidding process and establishes ready-to-use contracts with qualified vendors. This method of procurement is permitted under the North Carolina General Statute and allows local governments to forego their own formal bidding process when purchasing through a contract that was awarded via this competitive bidding process, such as those offered by Sourcewell. Due to the complexities of this project, including the tank layout, the vehicular circulation, the bulk loading conditions with the tanker trucks, the updated canopy structures that are required, and most importantly, the need to remain within the approved budget, we recommend the approval of Spatco Energy Solutions, utilizing the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement contracting method. And Spatco presented to us a contract in the amount of $1,072,986.43. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Board members, questions on this project? So how long does it take to build it? Or?
Tanks are 16 weeks out, so we're going to be pressed to get it in by the start of next school year, but we have a plan in place to make sure we're still able to fuel everybody.
That would be kind of important if we're operating school and we can't get fuel. So
we fortunately have a secondary refueling area here at the facilities department as well. So.
Okay, and you're familiar with the company, or is that?
We worked again with transportation. They deal with this on a more regular basis, and they worked with Spatco and it used to be Jones and Frank, but they're JF Petroleum Group now. But they'd worked with both of them in the past, which is why we went with their recommendation to talk to both of them.
Okay, so because we're doing something a little bit different using that.
Correct, yes.
Okay, I understand what we're being asked to do. Is everybody else?
Yes.
We got thumbs up here for consent. All right, we'll move that to consent for next week. Thanks.
Thank
And I think our last one for the evening is 6.10, Cabarrus County Schools Local AIG Plan for the 2025 through 2028 school year. And we have Miss Jenny Fast and Sarah, you back up. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Dr. Kapicki. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today Ms. Jenny Fast, who will be sharing updates on our local AIG plan for the next 3 years. Ms. Fast shares her support and passion for academically gifted students and serves as our AIG specialist.
Good evening. I am here to present the 2025-2028 local AIG plan. And here in North Carolina, AIG is under the Article 9B, which develops a state definition for giftedness and legally mandates each district to identify, serve, and develop a local plan. The local plan is to be reviewed every 3 years and must be approved by our local board. And we just try to make sure that our local plan also coincides with our district strategic plan of becoming the best here in the nation. And so these are just some data points for Cabarrus County Schools. So here in the state of North Carolina, we are funded for academically and intellectually gifted students at 4% of our total ADM, regardless of the number of students that are identified. So you can kind of see the breakdown here by school level. We do not formally identify until 3rd grade. So our elementary percentage there is for 3rd through 5th grade. So our elementary students, we have 20.4% of our students identified. At our middle school level, we have 19.68%. High school, 16.37%. So our total for the district is 18.5%. And again, you can kind of see our AIG headcount over the last 5 years here. And in terms of personnel, we have myself as the district AIG specialist and 22 elementary AIG specialists. And so when we looked at revising this plan, some of our strengths were our LIFT program, which is our talent development program. It has been recognized by DPI at the state level as a promising practice. And our Navigate curriculum, which is our social emotional for gifted students curriculum, and it also has been recognized by the state as a promising practice. Our other strength is that we offer a gifted local endorsement course for educators here in Cabarrus County. It does not give teachers the AIG certification that they would need to become a licensed AIG teacher, but it does cover some of those need to know basics for teaching gifted students social emotional needs, differentiation strategies, and how to develop that growth mindset in our gifted students. Some of our opportunities when we take a look at our next 3-year plan for growth is that we would like to redefine our services this plan cycle. Our AIG subgroup growth is not where we would like to see it, so we kind of want to take a moment to just kind of redefine those services. We also would like to strengthen our parent communication, particularly at the secondary level. That was some feedback that we received in our parent survey. And so we want to really tap into Parent Square to make sure that we are getting that information out to our families that might need it for advanced learning opportunities. And then we are working to collaborate with our ML department. Currently, most of our documents are translated in Spanish, but as you guys know, we have many other languages other than Spanish, and so making sure that we are getting that translated for those families. So our AIG local plan revision process, our elementary specialists sat down and kind of did a self-assessment over the AIG standards to reflect on current practices in our areas of growth. We collected feedback from families and principals and classroom teachers, And the district team met once a month, and we included many stakeholders from different departments, assistant principals, and specialists. And then we evaluated and just kind of provided feedback to those proposed revisions. We also looked at the North Carolina AIG program standards, which will guide our local plan, and also looked at the DPI call to actions. So our North Carolina AIG standards guide us in developing and coordinating and implementing through our program to make sure that we have a comprehensive program. We also want to make sure that we are developing these students' potentials and really taking into consideration their academic, intellectual, and social emotional needs. So these are our 6 program standards, and I'm just going to kind of do a high-level overview of each one and kind of some of the revisions that we have. So our first one is student identification, and this is just really how are we seeking students, identifying, and serving them. And we have 3 different pathways here in Cabarrus County to be identified as under the AIG umbrella. And so our first pathway is our IG pathway, or intellectually gifted. And so this is any student that scored a 98 or 99 percentile on an aptitude test. In pathway 2, this is our aptitude pathway. And so students can be labeled, they can be gifted in reading or math or both subjects. And these students scored a 93 percentile or higher on an aptitude test with a 90 percentile or higher on an achievement test in a teacher recommendation. Our pathway 3 is our achievement pathway. Again, they can also be gifted reading, math, or both, and 90 percentile or higher on an aptitude test with a 93 percentile on achievement in that teacher recommendation. So some revisions for student identification. We have added linguistically gifted characteristics to our teacher nomination. We are also partnering with the ML department to review students' WIDA access scores to ensure that multilingual students with gifted potential are not being overlooked. And we're also working to translate a lot of our documentation in other languages. Standard 2 is our comprehensive programming within a total school community. So how do we provide a strong, well-rounded program for students, knowing that they are gifted all day, every day, not just when they come out of the classroom to go with their AIG teacher. And so our revisions here is strengthening that collaboration with classroom teachers to intentionally differentiate for advanced and gifted learners. We'd like to expand our talent development program beyond kindergarten through 3rd and our front-loading efforts, and equipping our AIG specialists with that co-teaching and coaching skills to help them expand their reach as well. We are also working on integrating AIG into our MTSS framework, particularly there at the middle school level, making sure that those students are being supported. And then flexible grouping strategies and constantly reviewing data points. Differentiated curriculum and instruction is just really talking about how are we really pushing these kids and making sure that we're going beyond the basics. And so for our next plan, we would like to, again, redefine our services to better align with identification so that students can receive targeted based instruction, recognizing that you don't have to be gifted at everything. And so what is it that you are gifted at, and let's really tap into that and help you just become a well-rounded student. Enhancing our collaboration between our elementary specialists and our classroom teachers to help identify and nurture that potential. And then at the high school level, we have the honors course legislation that is rolling out. And so making sure that that is being implemented and monitored as well. Standard 4 is our personnel and professional development. So just making sure that our gifted students are supported by those trained individuals. And so with the honors legislation, we have implemented an honors onboarding course that high school teachers will be participating in if they are not already GLE certified or not AIG licensed. We do have some teachers that may not be an AIG specialist but have their AIG license. And then we would also like to identify district personnel professional development needs to see where we might need to close gaps. Standard 5 is our partnerships, so making sure that we're building those lasting two-way partnerships with families and schools, and then even within our community. And for this, again, we're going to do more streamlined communication and utilizing our district advisory group to continue to monitor for more improvements. And our last standard, program 6, program accountability. And this is just how do we make sure that we are holding everybody accountable for our gifted students. And we're going to continue to monitor the program and track our referrals, identification, participation, and retention data, collaborate with MTSS, and then continue to collect feedback. So next steps would be pending board approval. We would submit this to the state for review, and they will provide us feedback at the beginning of next school year. And then once it has been approved, the final plan will go live on the website. Do you guys have any questions?
Board members, questions about our Pam?
Hi, thank you so much. My question is, what is WIDA? W-I-D-A?
Yes. That is what the ML department uses
Multilingual.
Yep.
Okay.
To access language acquisition with our newcomer students.
Okay. And then I guess the additional question I have is, will this plan, these are slides, is that what the plan's going to be, you're submitting to NCDPI? Is it this? What is it going to look like?
No, there is a draft that will go in the portal.
And that draft is actually additionally linked in board documents, so you can actually see it is a very long, comprehensive plan, just like we put everything else in CCIP. It is a lengthy plan, but that is also attached, so you can see comprehensively everything that is listed and would be submitted pending approval.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Catherine?
Now, are we still providing lift?
Yes.
And that'll be first and second?
Yes, we are going to start doing a little bit with kindergarten, just doing some observations, but that's going to come kind of later at the end of kindergarten because we kind of want them to get settled in the beginning.
Okay, and then how much time does first and second receive?
So first grade will have whole group lessons that are 30 minutes each, and then second grade will have some whole group and some small group.
Okay. What do you do when a student moves from another school system, another state, and they've been served AIG services in the K2 areas? Do we continue serving that, or?
We do have where they would come in and we would take a look with any new transfer, regardless of being K2, we would take a look to make sure that they meet our criteria, and then typically they would get that lift service to make sure that they have that, and then the classroom teacher and the AIG specialist would collaborate to make sure that they had differentiation.
And is there a formula to determine the allotment? Because some of these larger schools that have lift, I mean, I've been in large schools and those lift teachers are hustling. Whereas you go to a smaller school and, you know, they don't have that many classes. So how do you determine the allotment?
We do take into consideration the number of classes in the grade levels for K2, and then we also take into consideration the number of students that are on head count for 3rd through 5th grade as well.
Oops. Go ahead, Shannon.
I'm sure you all did this, but I know it's very important to have the classroom AIG teachers involved in this process. So I feel certain you got a lot of input from them in this process.
Yes, ma'am.
And the second thing is, At the secondary level, do you all utilize the CCP courses and that type thing as far as your program?
Yes.
Sam, or did you, Catherine?
Now, are AIG teachers involved with early entry? Because I know they come in with the psychological and, you know, I mean, basically, if they're being considered for early entry, they really do qualify for AIG services. So, are AIG teachers involved with that?
So one of the things per general statute is once they meet the criteria, it really is up to the principal, but then typically what we see is that the principal involves the AIG teacher to make sure that there's strong onboarding processes. I will say the early entry criteria in North Carolina is very strict. So we do not develop that criteria. That is laid out by the general statute. And so once a parent is able to produce the documented evidence from a private psychological testing that the child meets eligibility criteria, at that point it would be up to the parent to reach out to the principal to make a decision on whether or not that child would be admitted to early entry.
Sam?
So years ago, back when we were first starting to see metadata and how we could crunch numbers, and there were concerns about our gifted students' growth. Was that what you meant by growth when you were talking about growth earlier in your presentation? And we are being intentional about looking at that? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Greg?
I just want to tag on to what Sam was asking because that was similar to what I wanted to ask. So growth in this subgroup is difficult because they're already high flyers, right? So there's not as much headroom for them to make growth. Is that the complicating factor there?
So I would say yes. However, when you're looking at an AIG subgroup, it is still realistic to exceed growth with an AIG subgroup. So it's not impossible because you're comparing those students amongst like students. So Carl, certainly correct me if I'm misspeaking, but that is one of the myths that we are trying to debunk, which is that it's impossible to grow academically gifted students because they are so high. The state calculation actually says, no, we're looking at that growth in relation to other students that fall within the same percentile of proficiency, but also tracking their growth longitudinally over time using the EVOS system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, because we've got 5,000 kids involved, I'd like to have parents an opportunity to come talk to us if they've got any issues with our plan. So I'll put that on action for next week. All right.
Thank you.
I think that's all we have, other than we have a need for a closed session. And I guess I have a lengthy paragraph to read. I'll need a motion and a second. That the board convene in closed session to consult an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A3, including cases involving Catherine Gilead, Kenneth Baker, Carol Kendrick, Otis Bonds, Sandra Moore, what else? Russell Gregory, Cynthia Particular, and Miller, and to consider confidential personal matters pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A6. And Pam made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we will say goodnight to our listening audience. See you next week. And we are in closed session. I guess we can take a little